I'd like to go in with you all this evening. Meaning. I used to kind of cover this many years ago, but just sitting in the room next door, I thought I need to reopen this avenue of meaning. And I would suggest also the avenue of the one constant of what one really means to be alive. There's many little things here, like to be alive. I don't mean it's someone alive. To me, that's a wonderful appearance to someone. But what is the meaning? Only in this moment, the meaning of being alive. And is that aliveness, does that actually belong to the images portrayed in our society, portrayed in any way in which we have a tendency to follow some other meaning rather than, and my source in the constant discovery of what it is? Am I? Is this the meaning of this moment? Am I source? It's constantly discovering that it is source. And in that discovery, discovering I am meaningfully alive, discovering what I am, then life direction is the discovery of how deep I go. I mean, how deep do I go? And is that what I live for? Now, I'm not speaking of any religious term here. I think that most of us somehow get snared up in religious icons. And I would suggest or point towards those religious icons where they simply displaying the meaning of life. Nothing more and nothing less. Entering the deep. Nothing religious about it. Not even spiritual. In that one is discovering I am spirit, forming in the present moment. So I wanted to kind of walk this avenue with you. And I'd like to put questions to us. If you were to stop right now, truly stop, what is most important to you right now? Right now. Not asking you at your deathbed, you're dying right now. No, no. Now, I'm just asking, what is most important to you if you were to stop and, as it were, part the forces of your own mind with your hands of meaning? What would be most important to you in this life stream? Is this, am I, are we life streams? And, and are we, or am I, a life stream that is source itself? So is it my desire as myself to, to discover the depths that I am capable of reaching into the meaning of this moment? And that's what I live for. I live for this, but I'm not telling you that's what I live for. I'm saying that's what I live for. So within this, are we aware that I am source streaming now? I mean, is there awareness of that? If we can all check in, we check in. Am I aware I am source streaming now? You have to really check in. And there's some funny energies around this checking in, if I may just point to them. When we focus on checking in, we become lopsided. When we don't focus on checking in, we become distracted. And when we watch both of the focus and the distraction, it takes you back to you. Shall I repeat that? Focusing on the distraction. When you focus on what you are, and then there's a moment of distraction, and so you're distracted, and then you remember to focus. When you neither have to focus, but you do, and you get distracted, and that's okay, and you see both so-called activity, that's when you're you. That's when the door of your perception opens up in a deeper manner. And from there, one may move differently in what one is offered into. I may just carry on this. What do I mean by offered into? What I'm saying right now is whoever this is, listening, speaking, seeing, hearing, is immense. Is immense. Profoundly immense. Deeply immense means, quite simply put, when there are no images, There's only the deep. When there is truly the deep, and there are no images, there's profound journeying as a being. Some might call that the soul, or as source, soul, source. I wanted to take this a little differently than maybe I have before. But I want to really invite you to not be familiar with what I'm about to say. Everybody that you know, journeying with you. And do you invite them to be you? And do they invite you to be them? In other words, are you realizing to be so open and so porous that you're available for so much more than the complicated life that most people live? Complicated because really you want to live fully alive with no game plan that's got anything to do with an image of you or this world. You want to live wildly alive. But what's holding us back is we keep sharing our self-image and seeing people through self-image rather than what is the meaning of this meeting in this moment of us. Do I find it on the surface, or is the surface just a sham of images colliding? Is it true that only the deep nurtures and moves one's open intelligence into greater profundity, ability, and service to the all? And our only problem on any level of pain or suffering is that we don't live absolutely losing ourselves. We just keep looking for our image rather than abandoning the image. And that's the root of our suffering. And that's the root of our control and our need to control. So we seem to have the security, which is actually trauma, of our own self-made image of ourself. But to completely abandon through being so awake to the meaning of this moment has one porous to the whole of life and not just part of it. Otherwise, we're dividing our intelligence up into millions of fragments, trying to control different aspects so we can remain intact as a particular someone, an image, but never discovering what is mind, what is love, what is truth, what is pain, what is suffering, what is emotion, what is soil, what is sky, who am I? I mean, I'm going to throw some wild cards in here, okay? Most of us think only humans are walking the earth, but there's extraterrestrials all over the place. Is that wrong? Did you only ever want to meet a human? But the question is, though, are you just human? Is the earth only for humans? Or is the earth for Hugh, the vibrant light colors of that streams throughout the universe and manifests? Hugh to me and human is manifestation. Frequency, light, manifesting as our universe, as our earth, as this moment. So it's like, do we really want to dive into this on a moment to moment basis? In other words, is enlightenment, if there is such a thing, and to whom, is enlightenment just to keep diving into the discovery of the meaning of this moment? Is that enlightenment? And an enlightenment that clearly you have to see, you just got to keep with it because it doesn't have a beginning and end. So you've got to discover it now. Because as it were, God is constantly moving on. And yet you're also surrounded both inner and in an inner level and an outer level by God. There is nothing that is not appearing inside or out that is not God or consciousness itself. So then there's a word for this I'm going to suggest. Everything I've just been sharing with you. It's called death. What is death? The simple dropping away of all identification. That's all. Whilst alive, the ability to enter into it all now, whilst alive. Therefore, know of no death whatsoever, because there is no such thing. It's only the hankering on to images of oneself, where we choose both mentally, emotionally, psychologically. What's the other word I'm looking for? Spiritually, we want to still have the known. God is the unknown. So psychically, we're still looking for the known. But entrance is the deeper meaning of now. So we become so open and so porous that things will move in life that the chooser wouldn't have chosen. But the lover would be choicelessly moved. So if we look, we might see that we still look through the lens of identification with the known. Rather than I'm going to use the word practice of actually seeing, like right now, you can come, come. That there are what appears to be within footprints in the deep that have no image that ever walked them. Another word for footprint is divine information. Divine simply meaning knowing the difference between experience as identification and experience as opportunity of light of oneself. And the fact that, or the truth that, on this level of experimentation, body mind carries memory of identification or divine memory of the way. When we get this, our thinking changes, because thinking is no longer a firing of the neurons of the known. Thinking becomes the spark of light divining itself into creation, which in the same instant creates and fires what we call the brain, or the instrument to change perception from light information to manifest creation, which is now. And in that moment of deepening, a profound perception fires the neurons in the light of the now or the new. And thinking deepens no longer belongs to personalization of activity or history. It belongs to the discovery of source connection and our ability to realize that as I am, whilst still being so open on all levels and so porous on the human level that we do not push experience away as not mine or shouldn't have. Because Source wants it all. It wants to discover what it is profoundly and directly throughout the creation, which is now. And this is Source discovering itself. Not somebody, but Source, and yet appears as you and I, with our dilemma, with our pain, with our suffering, with our trauma, with this or that or the other, but completely open and vulnerable to our immediate experience of what is. Therefore, unable to give answer and deeper direction in this moment where the neuron of this brain fires the deeper levels that one is journeying into that become manifest. If you look at this, really is what sleep is about. It really is losing the image of ourself, both psychologically, mentally, emotionally, physically. Then even on a personalization of dream, we drop into, let's call it the beyond, but that's not quite correct because the beyond is now. Appearing is this. This is the beyond, appearing as it is. This is what is, which is the beyond, which is now. And somehow we have the capacity, whoever we are, to pick our fingers into the depths of what we know we are in this moment and move that into existence. And so the deep becomes naturally integrated once we fully experience clearly that I am source without beginning and end, discovering what it is. And it is that meaning of even breathing I discover I am the creator point and the profundity from which it all emerges. And somehow, as a soul or a being, I am on the journey with countless beings, moved from the same profundity, having direct, pure, living awareness as source throughout creation. So those moments of distraction and those other moments of focus, we begin to see beyond. And yet they support our healing, which simply means our remembering of what we deeply are. And the growing ability to so awaken in the immediacy of this knowing as myself, there's transformation of the energetic levels all the way into manifestation. And the patterns that created an image begin to be healed. And new patterns, it's like a mandala, of greater love's intention begin to emerge. If I can just point to how this kind of works, may I? Thank you. if I may, you're all looking this way, right? Yeah, you're all looking this way. Okay, you have to just look this way. I'm looking this way. So just look this way for a moment. Okay, this way. This is the pattern that's emerging from this way. Close your eyes. You've got your eyes closed and you open your eyes, and that's its pattern. Now, how deep are you going? This is the pattern of your entrance into yourself. This display, not to any whatever other people believe they see. We're just gently dismissing that for a moment. This before me is the pattern of this within me. How deep does it go? This is actually the moment-to-moment question of meaning. This is really what it is. No matter what you see and what you hear, and how you feel what you see and what you hear, it's a living pattern of you as soul or source. You have a look of your innermost, or how deep you are merging and emerging. If you can hear this. So this is like a computer. You want the computer? Close your eyes. That's it. There's no buttons been pressed yet. Whose hands presses those buttons? I got one here. If I press on it, can you hear that? That's my input. Can you hear that? Can anybody hear that? That's input. Graham's pretty good at this. That's input. Somehow we're inputting into this. And there is output. But does input and output signify infinity? Knowing one's self. So how I see this working is like this. Absolutely porous, opened, totally porous. Porous is another word for vulnerability. Totally porous and open to all experience of life, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, physically, however it is, life now. Yeah? And how I respond to that is input. And output is how I create the answer to my input. Follow? Don't know if I made a good job of that. That's what infinity is. So how you see, if you're energetic, you have an energetic image of you through polarity, there's going to be no clarity as to why things happen. Please don't look outside your own self. People will always see things differently than you. I believe those people that I speak to, their business is their own. Unless you can find someone who's so open and vulnerable, in other words, porous, to their own real discovery, then okay, share. But make sure that you do this purely. If you're going to listen, listen. But finally, you must listen to you. And you're not a number at an address. Your soul, your stream of pure being. So if what I say is true, all that you see is pattern, and how, as awareness, you respond to that living pattern is the input into you. How deep that goes. And the input into you always comes back as output. right? So if you're realizing what you are, you begin to realize the input and output are source discovering itself. Source discovering itself. Not someone doing something. Source is discovering itself. You know why it's called source, don't you? Well, because it's fruity, because it's savory, because it's spicy. Come on, because it flows. And sometimes it's a yummy sauce, and sometimes it's terrible, but nonetheless it's sauce. It flows. Will you really discover there's no one behind this doing this, but what one already is. Source discovering itself. Not that it needs to. No, it's fascinated by what's coming out of it. It's going, how did that take place? I must get in there and find out. Of course, it's for all eternity. But this is the way in which whoever one is becomes, as it were, free of image and begins to realize the kind of creativity that is service to all beings throughout the cosmos. Meaning, not doing it because I'm focused, but that's how it might start off. Not doing it because I keep getting distracted, but that's the power that helps you wake up. But because of that tiny little dot between, it is I knowing myself. And within this, you may discover that actually you know more than the circle you've been encasing your human life in. And your human life was never separate from the cosmos, never separate from the beyond, and certainly not separate from source. And distractions are good to wake you up. And focus is good for you to get over yourself. Until you keep falling back into the middle. Keep falling back into the middle. Oh, I'm gone. Where did I go? We're so afraid of losing ourselves. We're so afraid of the unknown. We're so afraid of the known also. In fact, we're afraid of everything and we're afraid of nothing until we completely, through wisdom, see through it all. And if we're very watchful, we may discover the shards that are piercing our persona are our own message to ourselves to wake up beyond the known and live this life of love that I call I. A love that it cannot be described in space or time as a do this and don't do that. but just the fact, the truth that I am love. Then we might travel into places that have troubled us, and we might go to places that have disturbed us. Why? To discover that even those places are moved by love, and the healing of the body, mind, and the intelligence takes place. So if you have a look, but please don't believe a word he says, for God's sake. Why you keep looking for something to do? If you do. It's because you want to travel into the known again and again and again. And when you stop looking through the lens of what to do, movement will happen that has you going to places that in the what to do list wouldn't be on that list. The crux of what I'm endeavoring to point to here is don't miss the most important thing in this moment you call life. Do you live for the meaning of the images you've given yourself? Or you just live for the meaning, free of all image? Would you hold the hand of the beloved, even though you don't know where it's taking you? Or that hand is your hand in the invisible? Your other hand will just keep taking you round and round into the known, until you're totally over yourself. Then you'll be ready to discover the unknown. Now, please, I'm just sitting here, just speaking and pointing from my own experience of now. My intention is not to influence you, but just say, and I would suggest in existence, whatever that is for you, for us, for I, you're looking for a relationship to meaning that does not belong to an image. But in the deep, you're looking for a relationship of disappearance. But you can't mix the two up. In existence, you definitely appear. Ouch. In beyond, there is no ouch. Here, the relationship of the deep appears, and all relating is to meaning that one cannot describe other than the life you live for what you already are. Very few people, whatever that means, have walked a spiral. Most people just walk in circles. Same old thing. Most people do not walk in ever increasing depth to disappear right down to the central point of I. In relationship to all things, it really is this. There's some things that you can enter and truly meaningfully enter. You may find that you can share what you're entering with some beings. I trust you're finding those beings. They are valuable. But if you get familiar with those beings, you'll need to go to another place. So what am I endeavoring to put across today? Withdraw from the temporal by giving all of your energy to the meaning of why you exist. Withdraw from the temporal gives your mind no means to create an image, or at least images die, and you realize more spaciousness. Although you may go through a thing or two, which is to go through that rightly. But to withdraw from the temporal, whilst you have a body, will give you meaning to exist. And the universe is very good at this. It brings like to like. And somehow like to like is finding its likeness to deepen in this. But it has an intelligence about it. It simply will move on when it moves on. Why? Because it's the very nature of freedom to already realize it's free. And to realize there's no one you could possibly ever meet that is not really free. But to discover that the false belief that you're free is only the image you've made of yourself. When the temporal is clear, then the so-called future is vertical, and you'll follow extraordinary impulse, a total redesign in how you see yourself, just as if you've died and there's no information of that image that ever exists. Even if that image comes out of another mouth, it's not your knowledge. In this way, a new instant creation walks the earth as true I. I'm simply pointing to be fully in the meaning of this. Otherwise, we're simply be pulled to psychic constructions around who we should relate to or not out of the program of world image. May I just show you this? AI is coming up very fast. Have you noticed? No? No? Have a look. AI is looking at you. It picks up the pattern of you, and then it says, yep, that's you. And through you go. Right? Well, what if AI eventually says, yeah, I get your patterns. Do you know your living patterns? Says the AI. You're nothing but a bloody pattern. Come on, have a look at this. AI says, you're nothing but a pattern. Now, if you're not living a pattern, I ask you, will AI ever know who you are? Or will you just sail through? This is an open context I'm putting this in. To me, everything in the universe, including AI, is God. When we get this really clear, then we might treat all creatures on this planet as God, rather than just products from the image we have of ourselves. So let's just come right back before I invite you to have a chat together. When you close your eyes, and you learn, as it were, to completely soften and open, you're actually transforming and transmuting energy patterns of self-image, both the world's, the collective, and the individualization of that pattern. That's what we've been doing for years, you and I, in the practice of the form. But that's what you do in deep dreamless sleep. So when you close your eyes and you learn to go completely, openly deep, and you feel through the dark, the black, the deep. And notice how you're feeling through the dark, the black, the deep. it resonates in what appears to be the body. So the body begins to buzz or open, and you've reached your destiny, which is ever, as it were, occurring, and that is the entrance to the new place. The entrance to the new place. You're clearly evolving to a new place. Completely let go of an image, otherwise you'll repeat an image and the new place, and the image will not mix, and you're simply, as it were, vibrationally fall back down to the world image, and not have the bright, open, still point of your divine nature radiate as you shine all that you are and what you're entering. Do say hello to some of these invisible beings made visible in your consciousness. What makes us think that a tree is not a being from another universe? And what makes us think an ant isn't a being from another universe? What makes us think someone we meet is not a being from another universe? Dissolving the pattern of the known opens profound energy to rebuild the new self into coexistence with the universe as it is. This is destiny. So as we have our eyes closed, just keep dropping and dropping. And begin to see and know how vast this body of awareness is. And whoever we are brings a few gems back from the deep to shine the light of the new and activate it in the way we move in this opportunity to co-create the universe as pure being. Then when we take our breath, and you can open your eyes and feel your hands, that's not the same energy that was coming through these hands a few moments ago, this morning or yesterday. That's a new vibrance. And then when you put your left hand and your right hand together, that's the merging of two hemispheres of the brain in divine participation. And at some point, the brain will not be split as it is down the middle. It will be two as one. Then we begin to see how we move and from where, how we act and from where, how we paint. The vibrance of the deep is created, and it's our creation of this moment that delivers the message of the deep as oneself, healing the body-mind from patterned participation of the past. present participation of the now. That all things, all people, no matter what they do or what they display, you are part of, for you are the universe. There's no one in the universe that's not you. No one. There's no one that you're not participating with in the universe. No one. It's the other one's discovering itself as the only constant. And this is meaning. And it's beautiful then in the stillness of your own presence. Your own presence is rich and deep. And the mind is in abeyance with the creative flows of your own light streaming, your own growth, and your ability to share this discovery with the cosmos, which appears as your milkman, your next door neighbor, your lover, your cat, the seeds you just planted in the ground, all the universe talking to itself and saying, yeah, this is it. Enjoy your 10-15 minute discovery with, well, I have no idea who you're going to be put with. Let's find out.